If you know it's Saturday, then you know it's time for Africa Speaks. Good afternoon. My name is John-Allan. I'm standing in for Joy Doreen Bira, who is away on a brief leave. She will be back, though, next week. Today on the show, we won't have Click, we won't have Web City. We'll instead run a video that's gone viral over the past couple of days from Uganda and talk about child safety in the home. How safe is your child? This is an Africa-wide phenomenon with respect to the employment of house helps in people's homes and what they do while the parents or the owners of the home are not looking, are not watching. It is a very disturbing video, one that we have tried to blur in specific sections. So please, we advise that you view this video with a bit of caution. Anybody who is weak of heart should not view this video. It is quite disturbing, but one nonetheless that we must show to be able to discuss in open the issue of child abuse by employees in the home or by people within your home. How safe is your child? The hashtag is @Africa Speaks. My Twitter handle is @John-Allan. Let's get started with the show with this video.
Your prize.
So, today we're looking for the hairiest animal.
So,
do you know which animal has the longest and thickest fur? The sheep or the polar bear? Time to find the record setter. Sure. All right. So, which mountain tool should we use? Let's find out today's mystery tool. You can share it.
don't.
And now, we're going to give our new friend a present. Look, it's
Think me that way. I'm telling you the truth. I have nothing to do with the general manager. I can't even think of it. I'm in love with you. I can't think of it. Seriously.
I'm sure you've heard that properly.
That video believed to have been shot secretly in the home of an individual and his wife in Uganda sometime last week. That house help, we are told, is currently serving a 3-year sentence in Luzira prison, and the child who was in that video, whose face and we'd have to blur because of her safety, is doing well. But that video has sparked widespread condemnation in Uganda, as well as from the people who've watched it. It really is difficult viewing. And in our studios, in our I&M studios in Nairobi, we have George Mwongera. He's a clinical psychologist. He joins us now on KTN Africa Speaks to speak about the video. We will, of course, be joined by Brian Weke, a child's rights activist here in Nairobi. We tried to contact some family members of the child who you saw in that video to get some of the views on what they think should have happened in the days following that kind of attack. But Mr. Mwongera, I'll cross to you right now, and I'll start with this. Have you watched the video? And if not, I can describe it to you.
Yes, I have. I have watched it.
What are your initial assessments, and what is your initial reaction to that video?
Watching that video, it's very unfortunate for what that young child has to go through, the physical trauma that the child is subjected to. And if this child is not helped, she is going to have future problems in her life.
Can a child at that age remember or have some sort of memory of incidents that are as traumatic as this? With respect to cognitive memory, when does that start to kick in? From about 2 to 3 years old? We're told that the child is about 2 years old.
Yeah, what happens when someone goes through such a physical trauma, they tend to repress it in the unconscious. But as they grow up, those memories will come now to the conscious, and they'll start having mental disorders. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Paul Taff, a journalist in the United States, in his book on children, says that violent incidents in the home account for quite a number of other indicators later on in life. For instance, poor performance in school, a tendency towards violence in young male adults, a tendency to over-sexualize their problems in young female adults. Would you agree psychologically that these later on these problems, or rather these kinds of attacks and these kinds of incidents, translate into other indicators later on in life?
Yes, I do agree with that. But even before they get to handled stage, even at that time when they are children, they sometimes experience regression. Mm-hmm. That is the milestone that they had covered, they go back, especially if they are not wetting, they had stopped wetting their bed. You'll see the child now goes back and they start wetting their bed. They become shy, they are withdrawn, they start biting their fingers, and these are signs that they are going through trauma. Mm-hmm. Later in life, they also become perpetrators of the same. So they start doing to others what was done to them, so that it seems that they are revenging for what happened to them.
That's an interesting point you make, Mr. Mwongera, with respect to acting out what happened to them. Is this something that you can account for in actual statistics with respect to child offenders later on in life, or people who would perpetrate crimes against children later on in life? Is there an actual statistic around this?
Right now, we don't have the actual statistics, but we do receive people where I work in Kenyatta National Hospital. We receive people who have psychological problems because of childhood experience they had.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, tell me a bit more about the experiences that you've seen psychologically from your experience at Kenyatta National Hospital with respect to child abuse. What other symptoms can we look out for in people around us based on what you've seen?
So one of the things that people experience is what we call conversion disorders. These are the children at that age, they will start having like epileptic attacks. And then they'll also have some issues with the somatoform disorders. That is, they start having pains all over their bodies, but it cannot be explained medically. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mwongera, thank you very much. You keep staying with us here on Africa Speaks. We'll discuss the wider problem of child abuse in the home in Kenya, as well as what the trends are in Africa. Right now, we have to take a bit of a short break to allow our guest, Mr. Brian Weke, who is a child activist, to come and join us on the set to discuss this issue further. But keep your feedback coming in on @KTN Africa Speaks, or tweet me on @John-Allan. The discussion continues about that very disturbing video. Africa Speaks takes a short break. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to KTN Africa Speaks, a brief show today, but one where we're discussing something fairly heavy, child abuse in the home. We are joined, of course, by clinical psychologist Dr. George Mwongera. He joins us from our I&M studios. This is in the follow-up or in the wake of a video that went viral in Uganda last week that showed a child in a home being very badly abused by a house help. The information that we have is that that child, if you have seen the video, is doing okay. She has recuperated from the injuries that she may have suffered during that incident. But the main offender, the house help that a lot of people have been asking about, is currently serving a 3-year jail sentence in Luzira prison. But let's speak about the wider trends in terms of child abuse right now. Dr. Mwongera, of course, we have seen this video alongside you, and we have discussed what happens with respect to those specific incidents. But let's speak now to the wider trend. Who is the most likely person to abuse your child in a home?
In most cases, you find the abusers are people who are known to the child. These are relatives that are known to the child, and in some occasions, strangers. Yeah.
How likely would it be then, because, or rather not how likely, a lot of parents would ask that, especially in an environment where both parents have to work, who is the best person to give care to your children when you're away?
Well, it's a hard question, because people that you would not have suspected would harm your child are the very people that will do that. So the thing is, one is just take a chance, but the most thing is try to monitor how your child is, and that is when you come back home or when you're free, interact with your child. Find out from the child what is happening at home when you're not around there. Because in most cases, the people you trust to be the children are the same people who are going to do the same. So talk to your child.
Now, in terms of talking to a child and interacting with a 2-year-old, that might not be very easy even for a parent, because of course, in terms of language, the 2-year-old might not be able to express themselves as well as they should to be able to talk about an attack or an incident like that. Is there another way that you can find this out without necessarily having to speak to and get that information from a child who may be, as you mentioned earlier in the show, reclusive as a result of the attack?
The modern way of doing it is, of course, putting cameras in your home. If you are able to do that, that would be a very good way of doing it.
Okay.
Yes.
In the wake of an incident like this, say we have a number of people, and the statistics speak to this, we have a number of people who have been abused or have their children have been abused. In the wake of an incident like this, outside of the help of psychologists like yourself, what can parents do to be able to help children move on from very traumatic incidents, especially children of that age set, 2 to 3 years old?
Okay, what happens when a child goes through that kind of trauma? The first thing they experience is mistrust. They don't trust anybody. They don't trust any adult, because these are the very people who have subjected them to trauma. So as a parent, what you need to do is try to develop trusts with your child, so that at least they are assured there are people who they can trust. There are people who are loving, there are people who are caring, and they are not everybody is out to harm them. So we assure them by being close to them, being friends to them. Yeah.
Okay. If and this is a very controversial argument, especially with respect to caregivers or people who are known to their children perpetrating such abuse in the home. That might also be a signal of a psychological problem, right? And if this is indeed a psychological problem, how best do you deal with the offender in order to break that chain of violence rather than just being punitive?
Looking from a psychological perspective, you need also to find out this perpetrator, could they also have gone through the same? Because most probably you find that even them, they were abused when they are children. So what they are doing is they are perpetuating what was done to them. So what we need to do is to help them get through psychological healing, because apart from the punitive part of it, taking them to prison, to courts, this person needs help. So at a professional level, this person needs help also. Yes.
Do we have
at Kenyatta Hospital? We are trying to bring on board the perpetrators so that we help them. Yeah.
That was actually going to be my next question, but maybe we should answer that in terms of a wider scale of the criminal justice system. Are we building in enough psychological care or psychological follow-up to criminal offenders to ensure that once they get out, this doesn't happen again? For instance, this lady is serving 3 years. 3 years is a very short time. That child won't even be 10 years old by then. And they, because of the lack of follow-up, because of some of the structures that we don't have here, will not be followed up as a child offender. How seriously are governments in Kenya and across Africa taking the use of psychologists yourselves to be part of the criminal justice system to reform criminals?
Unfortunately, may I say, there's no much is done on the same. Because once we put them in prison, we think now we have solved the problem. But we have not done it. These people are human beings. They need to be reached, and so that we can help them in healing of what I've done. Again, also there is the issue of stigma. We stigmatize so much. We feel these are people that doesn't need help, but they are crying for help. So I believe that in future our government can put mechanism so that we can be able to reach those people, the perpetrators of those crimes. Yeah.
All right, Mr. Mongera, thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for joining us on Africa Speaks. Remember, you can keep this conversation going on a hashtag KTN Africa Speaks, or you could tweet me at John-Allan. Let's talk about this issue because it is one that affects quite a number of people, at least given the number of reports that have been done by it, the UN and other child rights groups. Unfortunately, our child rights activist, Brian Weke, who was supposed to be joining us on the show, could not, owing to that traffic that I'm sure a lot of Nairobians know about on Mombasa Road. We do apologize on his behalf for not making it, but there will be other opportunities to speak about this issue. Quickly, just let me read one or two tweets on your feedback with respect to this topic. At Burning Rhythm Soon, at Danny AF says, I have a 2-year-old baby girl and I would never want to see that happen. I don't know what I would do. Only God knows. And Kasmal says, in 3 years is very little, right? 10 years onwards would do to teach her and others a good lesson. Of course, that's a lot of feedback that a lot of people agree with respect to this incident. Unfortunately, that's all we have time for this afternoon on KTN Africa Speaks. We'll continue the discussion. We'll continue this very crucial discussion with respect to child rights and how safe your child is in your home, online and in subsequent shows. I'm John-Allan Namu, standing in for Joy Doreen Bira, who is away but will be back soon, saying good afternoon. Follow us on Twitter and follow our discussions on other news items developing during the day, especially the Mandera bus attack that took place this morning. We will have comprehensive coverage in all our bulletins today and in days to follow. I'm John-Allan Namu once again. Good afternoon.